O HR Digital 2023 by APG é o primeiro evento realizado em Portugal inteiramente focado nas novas tecnologias digitais e na gestão de pessoas. Ao todo são 20 palestrantes de 7 países distintos, uma verdadeira experiência internacional. Por isso, convidamos agora ao palco, vindo diretamente de Mumbai, na Índia, Tarun Katial, CEO e fundador da plataforma COTO, que nos vai falar sobre cultura, mentalidades e competências digitais. Bem-vindo, Tarun.
What I say, and I hope the translation goes okay. I'm supposed to be pausing and somebody's going to be translating, but I'm just going to go and we'll figure this out, right? Thank you so much for having me here this afternoon. It's lovely weather. From where I come, it's really, really hot. So anything under 20, 25 degrees feels like wow. And I hope global warming doesn't take its toll and we get to the kind of temperatures that we're getting to everywhere across the world. The last speaker spoke very nicely about AI and how AI is changing the world and how the software development life cycle is going to change considerably, keeping the AI co-pilots in play and what's happening with OpenAI and ChatGPT, etc. So I kind of have tailored my conversation around, and coincidentally so, around what do you do as leaders, as managers, to deal with organizations that are now rapidly moving towards AI. The first question that crossed my mind when I started to use ChatGPT is saying, hey, do I need all these people in my company? And then do I need an HR manager after that? But these questions will very quickly evaporate from your head because you will realize that it is very, very complementary. But the first step that all of us have to take is to embrace technology ourselves. What really happens in organizations, and it's happened in the past as we've been through many technology cycles and much evolution, is that we as leaders and managers expect everybody else to adopt technology, and we're possibly the last people to embrace it ourselves. And that's one big change or one big difference that I've tried to make in my career over the last 20, 25 years, is that you take the first step of adopting technology and realizing how good or bad it is, be an early adopter, get over the fear and the barrier of technology and how to use it and what to do with it, and then to be able to live with it with a huge amount of ease and grace. When I was asked to speak at this conference about culture, technology, AI, I looked back and said, what has happened to my life and how have I evolved as a leader over the last 20, 25 years using AI and technology. And the last 2 years have been the most incredible for me. And that is because, one, the wine matures after a point, and I think I kind of matured as a leader after being really directive and wanting to make results to getting a point of being more conscious and embracing change around me. And there was one person who really changed my life with that, who I decided to bring along with me onto this conference today, who's Brian and who's on the Zoom. And we're going to have a beautiful conversation with him over the next 15, 20 minutes about how he coaches leaders like me and many others in embracing technology and making conscious organizations with AI at the core of them. Now, 4 or 5 points before we move to chatting with Brian on how really my experience of technology has been. And thank you, Brian, for being here and doing this with me. One is really once you start embracing technology, you start also appreciating human beings, right? You realize that to be able to gain independence and to be able to make really sharp decisions, you also need sharp individuals in your team who need to be motivated, who need to be aligned, and who need to really work along with you in making sure that technology does best for you. So the one big key as we put AI and more of AI into our businesses is how do you really harness human decision-making capabilities? Because as you get more AI, the amount of choices and options that will be placed over you every single morning on one single problem that you are trying to solve are going to be huge, right? when I started using OpenAI, I thought this is going to be easy, right? So I would put in complex problems that I was looking for easy answers to. And OpenAI would think faster than me, but also put out multiple options and opportunities in front of me. And it does take a huge amount of prompting to get to the final distilled answer that may be applicable or may be best for you. And even that is a decision that the human's going to take over all the options that you've distilled and you've sifted down, right? So how do you really go about it? You go about making sure that you have sharp, motivated decision-making skills in your team to be able to prompt and sift OpenAI to get to the right answer. And that really happens with a certain amount of appreciation of that human effort and value. Now, how do you go about then appreciating that human effort? And the first step that I realized that was key to that was consciousness and mindfulness, right? If you're really conscious about that, what you're looking for, what you're looking to do, and how you're going to go about doing it, you're going to make really good choices. So I think the more mindful managers are on their path to adapting AI, the better choices they're going to make in using AI for good. The other part is that you're going to definitely go wrong in making those choices. So are you vulnerable enough to accept that when you're adapting new technology, when you're getting into AI, you're going to make a lot of mistakes? Because if you have the fear and barrier of making mistakes, you're unlikely to adapt new technology, right? How many of you guys use OpenAI every single day? Right, it's about 2%. And why do the 98% don't use it? Any answers? Come on. Say something. The fear? The barrier? The fear of unknown, the fear of adapting to something new, don't know how to do it, don't know what it'll be. Will it be smarter than me? Will I have to replace myself? Will I get a sense of insecurity? Right? The first job that's going to go is mine. Does that thought cross your head? Yes or no? Yeah, that's being honest. And so the first step to adapting AI and technology in your businesses is vulnerability. It's being able to embrace the fact that life's going to change and that it may not ever be the same. And I will have to take a huge amount of personal effort to be able to change myself and adapt into that new life and that new technology. And for that, the one thing that I learned over 20 years, and then Brian sharpened it for me, is that you have to start building a mind-body connection. Every time you sense that insecurity, you've got to be able to visualize it in yourself. You've got to be able to take a deep breath and say, hey, I can overcome it. You've got to practice that self-confidence to be able to walk that path and to cross that line. Because if you don't cross that line, you may be left alone standing this side of the game, right? Do you all realize that if you don't embrace AI or technology, you may not be in the midst of things in the next 6 to 8 months? And 6 to 8 months is very short, but do you realize that? Does everybody accept that? Say yes! Because that's the first step, right? You've got to say yes. You've got to say, it is going to change. I will have to change. This is not a concept that is going to Mars. This is not a concept that is far away. This is not a space shuttle that Elon Musk is sending and that only a few of us are going to get onto it. This is something which is real, which is on our phone, and everybody's going to be on it. My son wrote a letter to my wife, and she was traveling, and she does theater, saying that he's missing her on ChatGPT. She didn't realize, he started crying. There was like an emotional overflow saying, hey man, my son's grown up. And until she realized that some words didn't look like his. Right? And I've kind of written many letters to my wife on ChatGPT and then realized that she will realize, right? Because eventually there is going to be a human intervention in everything we do. There is going to be that appreciation of AI which then brings life down to making the right kind of decisions, to have the right kind of awareness, and to build the right kind of conscious team. And at that word of conscious team is my cue to bring my guru and my coach Brian into this conversation. So can somebody give him audio? Yeah. So Brian, we discussed this yesterday, and coincidentally we were having this conversation, and how AI is going to kind of change the world, whether it should be individualistic, whether it should be teams, and how organizational structures and environments are going to change using AI. So talk to me a little bit about what we were saying about what should we do with AI and teams, and what could be the possible outcomes.
Yeah, look, we incredible to developing and time. Exactly right. When we are going to have that, and that the people that we work with.
I think they're losing your audio. Yeah, maybe if you switch to a laptop, it'll be better. Yeah. Or you keep the phone closer.
Okay, can we do this? Is this better?
Yeah, it's much better, yes.
Okay, great. Let me see if I can okay. I think we have got it if you can hear the audio.
Yeah, we can hear the audio very nicely now.
Okay, great. Okay, good. So look, wow. There are a lot of things that AI is going to do for us in terms of being able to create connections with each other. And it's a tool that can be used to enslave us or to free us. And so if we begin to look at what happens and what can AI do and what can't it do. So we were looking at when you're using AI as a tool that is productive, how do you measure production? We obviously think about doing that at the individual level, which very quickly turns into something that feels like Big Brother. If what we do, though, is we begin to measure productivity in relation to our teams so that we give them data, we give them a forum to be able to work through the kind of teaming issues that Tarun, the things that we're talking about in terms of the human part of this equation. So AI will not create collaboration, but it will create a forum where our teams can learn to collaborate. And that forum is going to be incredibly essential as we prepare the people in our businesses to change as fast as we're going to need to in order to keep up with the technology that's going to continue to change our lives.
Yeah, and we are going to use AI more and more for measuring productivity, right? From the point that we hire people to be able to then understand how they're performing in the organization and then what outcomes they are having, and then even turnover and appraisals, right? And when Brian and me were having this conversation, he said, while we do a lot of this individually, the biggest pain point that we are looking to solve is how AI, technology comes together, and then people come together in this real world, right? To be able to build a better organization for you and for yourself. And when Brian and me were discussing this, he spoke, and pretty much what he just spoke about, he spoke about the fact that this can take the next big leap. Now, Brian, talk to me a little bit about what should be the challenges and consideration as managers we should keep in mind when we put AI and data and teams together to be able to build these beautiful outcomes.
Well, the first one is make sure that you understand that you can have the data, you give that to the team, and the team begins to wrestle with that data. What does it mean? How do we interpret this? That's the forum that allows us to really begin to learn new skills in terms of how we relate to each other. That's the piece that, your teams, though, are not going to be able to facilitate themselves. They're going to have to learn them, okay? And how do we provide the space to where they can begin to learn to create the connections that are really going to allow that team to perform at a different level than it's been performing before. So what we're looking at as we make these applications is we see these as learning tools, not measuring tools. If we look at this as just measurement, then what we do is we get locked into the place to where we're having to be graded on what we are doing rather than being able to kind of hold each other accountable to begin to create that level of responsibility that allows us to grow and change as leaders and to grow leaders in the companies that we are all working in, and most of you are heading.
Perfect. Now, what happens really is that, we get data. Inevitably, we are judgmental individuals, and so we start to grade people in our minds and saying, hey, this person better than AI, this person worse than AI, this person good team player, this person not good team player. This looks like he's going to anyway leave. This one is going to stay, but I can't afford them because the kind of salary that the person's asking. Talk to me a little bit about vulnerability, energy, conscious leadership. I mean, I've learned a lot from you on this, and I would like this audience to get exposed to your concepts.
Yeah, so what we look at here is how do we bring our vulnerabilities into our relationships with the people that we're working with? All of those things that you just talked about are things that could be much more transparent than we allow them to be. A lot of times what happens is we don't say things. Oftentimes we wait way too long to be able to give feedback to each other, to be able to connect at the human level. If we get the data, if we're using AI and we begin to start to have goals that are achievable only with cooperation, connection, genuine care, inspiration, which are all emotions, and that's what AI will never do. It'll never allow us to create the kind of significant connections with each other that actually inspires us, that actually makes us better at what we do, but we need to have much more honest, vulnerable connections and communications in our workplace where we actually have those difficult conversations. And we have them, though, within a context where we're allowed to be able to have those conversations. It's a forum. And when we're looking as a team at how we can do better based on this productivity information that we've gotten from AI, that gives us a forum to begin those debates. In the end, we will still have the niggles that we have with each other, but we can, within the context, create a forum that allows us to work those through. And as we learn to facilitate that, as we learn to communicate with each other, as we learn to be able to, through that forum, have a goal that is a team goal that we have to really understand and we have to interpret at an individual level, which means I've got to tell you what I think about you in a way that you can hear it and in a way that we can then increase the viability of our teams. That's where the collaboration takes place.
Excellent stuff, right? So this is exactly, where I wanted to get to next, which was how do team members become more conscious of their collective outcomes, and how do they actively contribute in making them happen, right? We'll have excellent agile planning in using AI tools. We'll be able to know, okay, X has got to do Y, X has got to do A, Y has got to do B, and then it's all interconnected to getting to the final goal, and everybody's delivering in time, and we're going to have a great product coming out. Unfortunately, that's not what happens, right? Humans are humans. You're going to go wrong. Even if you have an AI co-pilot, you're still going to have challenges. Projects are going to get delayed. But if you wait till the last minute to have that conversation with each other because you have trust deficit with each other, because you really can't come out openly and tell them that I'm failing, or that I don't really know how to approach this, or that this is out of my understanding or scope, then this is going to get to disaster right at the end. Now, while AI is measuring the entire plan and is telling you that there's something going wrong, the person who's not going right is an individual and a human. Now, how does human connections really foster in this environment, and how do we really bring about a culture of consciousness and change with this, Brian?
We're all afraid of difficult conversations, right? We're afraid of being able to really kind of give difficult feedback to our, to the people that we're working with. That fear then gets taken away if we have a AI that looks at team productivity, and we can begin to kind of pull that apart. We now have a way of being able to have more honest and candid communication with each other that allows those difficult conversations to become easier. We can also learn to give feedback earlier, so it's not carried on an emotional vibration of annoyance or frustration, because if we do that, we will automatically get defensiveness in the other person. But if what we're doing within the context of a team is trying to support each other to create a team goal, to collaborate to get that team goal met, if we're able to do that, right, we then create a different kind of connection with our teams. It's much more supportive. It's much more genuinely caring. Now, how do we work on that? Because most of that is individual personal work, but we have now an environment and a team environment that allows us to work those issues in a much more efficient and effective way.
And as we wrap this up, Brian, what kind of leaders will lead this new AI-powered world, right? This is a whole conference of HR people sitting right in across me, 200 of them, and they're all wondering what kind of people should they hire, what kind of people should they be, what kind of leaders should they expect around themselves. So give us one final view of what will leadership be in this highly digitized, technology-led, AI-centered world that we're going to get ourselves into over the next 6 to 8 months.
Look, take a look at your own leadership style, for all of you individually. Are you the person in your organization that is driving the business? All right, because that's the normal style of leadership that is the most common to us. Or can you be the person that is actually supporting the people underneath you to be successful so that they become the leaders? So now, instead of driving the business, you're supporting the people that are driving the business. Now, when you do that, it's a different set of skills that you use. And those are much more skills that are connected to how we feel about each other and significant connections as human beings. And that's what AI will never be able to do.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brian. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Brian, my coach. Thank you for making it.
Thank you, man.
Right. And that was really our piece about how people, human connections will change in the next, year or two, and how all of you must be at the frontier of adopting technology, adopting AI, and let the fear go. And the next time I'm here, I'm hoping that when we ask people around how many people have used ChatGPT, at least 90% of hands will be up. So all the very best, and thank you so much.